Good morning, everybody. Maybe I should say good afternoon. Welcome to Corridor Conversations, Birds Along the Capitol Corridor Route. This is our third Corridor Conversations that we've done since September, and we are thrilled to have the Yolo Basin Foundation, which is located in Davis, California, joining us today to talk about the amazing bird life that you can see from our train. And we're also just so excited to see that so many people have signed up for this event today. It really just goes to show how much interest there is in birds. And we know that this has really picked up a lot during COVID as people have been spending more time outside and connecting with nature. So really exciting to see so many of you with us. I want to go over a few housekeeping items to get started. I have a slide for that. Let me just get that going. Okay. So first of all, because we have so many people who are joining us today on this webinar, everyone's cameras and microphones are turned off. If you do have a question, please feel free to just drop it in the chat. To all panelists and all attendees, we are going to, try to get to some of those questions during, actually answering them in the chat during the presentation. However, we're going to save the majority of them for the end. So we'll have a chance to kind of go over all those questions, and anything we don't get to, we are going to try to, get out to you next week. We'll definitely follow up and answer some of those questions. And then lastly, we are recording this, so we'll send that link out to you next week. If you want to share it to someone who maybe wanted to attend but wasn't able to, we'll also put it on the capitolcorridor.org website, as well as the Yolo Basin Foundation website. So you'll be able to see those there as well. Okay, so before I turn this over to our guest speakers from the Yolo Basin Foundation and introduce them, I'd like to welcome Rob Paget, who is the Managing Director at the Capitol Corridor. I'm gonna actually stop sharing my screen here and let him say a few words. So welcome, Rob.
Hey, thanks, Karen. And I just wanted to quickly, I don't want to take up too much time because we have such great speakers today. I just wanted to thank Karen for organizing this event, to Sabrina and Ken, the same. We really appreciate your participation, and to all of our regular riders that are on today. We're thrilled to have you and hope you will enjoy. We're a little diverting a little bit from our regular Capitol Corridor conversations. And then to those of you who've not yet ridden Capitol Corridor, you're going to realize what opportunities are out there. So as you're dreaming about what you're going to do when we get through this pandemic, I hope you'll put this on your list. And again, thanks to everybody for taking your time on Saturday to join us.
Thank you, Rob. So I just wanted to welcome anyone who joined a little bit later. If you're here for Birds Along the Capitol Corridor route, you are in the right place. The area of the route that our guest speakers from Yolo Basin Foundation will be focusing on today is between Martinez and Sacramento. And along this segment, our train actually passes through two really important bird habitats. The first is the Susumu Marsh, and the second is the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. It's unfortunate that we're in the middle of this pandemic, because this is actually an ideal time of year to be seeing birds. From our train, you can see the background that I have here. I just learned that those are coots that are in the back there, and those are the kinds of things that you can see from the train. But we're really just so happy that we're able to at least bring this to you virtually for now, and hopefully this will inspire your own exploration, and hopefully we can do something like this on the train at some point. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce our guest speakers today from the Yolo Basin Foundation. First up, I would like to introduce Sabrina Britt. Sabrina is the volunteer coordinator at the Yolo Basin Foundation, and she's going to tell you a bit about the organization, what they do, and also how you can support their really great work. And then I'm also going to let Sabrina kind of more formally introduce our feature speaker today, Ken Ely, who is our, I guess, resident bird expert, and he'll be doing the bulk of the presentation. Sabrina, I am going to let you go.
Great, thank you, Karen. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Karen, for this wonderful opportunity to share about Yolo Basin Foundation. Again, I'm Sabrina Britt. I'm the volunteer coordinator with Yolo Basin Foundation. And our mission is to expand public appreciation and stewardship of wetlands and wildlife in the Yolo Basin through education and innovative partnerships. We are the educational nonprofit that partners with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, who manages the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. We provide all of the education regarding that region, and we offer it to the greater Sacramento area, and recently, with things going virtual as well, beyond that. I'm going to keep my screen share like this so that you all can see it. Just a note that sometimes when I blow it up bigger, it falls off your screen and you can't see the whole PowerPoint. So this is how we'll view it today. So we are located between West Sacramento and Davis, California. The 80 freeway, the Yolo Causeway, goes across the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. And I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have driven over this at some point and seen that. And the office is just a little west, 2 miles west of the entrance here to the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. So we're just off Childs Road. You can even also access us from Mace Boulevard if you travel down here, down Childs, and into the bypass. You can see here that the Capitol Corridor route, the tracks are just north of the causeway here. That way you get an idea of geography and where we're located. I will mention that the bypass is still open. It has not closed completely to the public, so you can get out there and view the wildlife that Ken shares about today. Just a little overview about what we do. We provide the education for this area. So for example, we have our Discover the Flyway Schools program, which is immersing students in the wetlands in grades kindergarten through 8th grade. We provide public wetland summer camps for students, for your children ages 6 to 12. We provide funding for research to be done through universities. So graduate students come out into the Yolo Bypass wildlife area to conduct all sorts of research on the area, and we want to support that. We provide a Flyway Night speaker series, much like this webinar that you're sitting in today. And our next one is actually January 7th at 7 p.m. These happen the first Thursdays from early fall into the spring. Our Bat Talk and Walk program is a public program where you get to learn about Mexican free-tailed bats because they live under the causeway, under the freeway. And you can see a spectacular fly out at sunset between end of May through mid-September. And Corky Quirk, our resident bat expert, leads these. And you get to learn all about their natural history and biology of bats in the area. Our Explorer series provides public workshops and nature experiences and hikes around the greater Sacramento area as well. We have public wetland tours. We partner with the City of Davis to provide tours of our local wetlands and also wetland tours within the Yolo Bypass wildlife area itself. We have an annual festival every year in February, the California Duck Days Festival. For families, we have something there for all ages. And we also provide our biggest fundraising event in the fall every year, our Bucks for Ducks fundraising event, which just went virtual, and we brought in $80,000 from supporters like you. Some of you that supported us are on here today. I see that. Thank you. To provide these programs at low costs and for free to students and to the public. You might be wondering why we do this. And Ken will talk more about this as well. But These are the main reasons why our wetlands are so important for flood control so that our local cities, West Sacramento, Sacramento, Davis, Dixon, they don't flood. A wetland is a natural area for the water to be absorbed. It naturally filters our water. When it rains, that water goes underground and replaces our underground wells and aquifers for us to tap in for drinking water and other water resource uses. It provides habitats or homes and nurseries, places for wildlife to grow and live. It's an amazing stopover for migratory wildlife, and you will definitely see that today with Ken in terms of the birds that use these spaces. It's coastal protection. Our wetlands are connected to the delta, and as we get storm surges, that water can move up inland into the wetlands and not flood any coastal cities that way. And we get so many natural resources from our wetlands, and it's a place for recreation, fishing, bird watching, photography. This is why we do what we do. And this is why we're here today. Ken Ely, who is a program docent with Yolo Basin Foundation, will be speaking to you today about the amazing birds that you can see from the Capitol Corridor route through Susumu Marsh and the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. He's the vice president of Yolo Audubon Society too, and he has been so beneficial in helping Yolo Basin Foundation with our winter waterfowl program, our wetland tours of this in the city of Davis wetlands and out in the bypass, and with our Bucks for Ducks fundraising event. Thank you, Ken. He is a certified California naturalist through the University of California's Agricultural and Natural Resources California Naturalist Program, and he's an avid birder and photographer. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ken and turn it over to him, and also thank Lori Miyasato for her contributions to Ken's talk today. So Ken and Lori worked together on this, and Ken will be our featured speaker.
Excuse me. Thank you
bring
for
this
that.
over to Ken.
Thank you for that, that kind introduction, Sabrina. I kind of, I don't know how to. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm glad to be here to share what little I know about birds along the Capitol Corridor route. I have been a bird watcher for over 40 years. I'm kind of casual to intense. It depends on the mood, but I like to watch birds just for fun. I've been involved with Yolo Audubon for over 15 years. And as Sabrina mentioned, I've been a docent, I think, a couple of decades with the Yolo Basin Foundation. I could be exaggerating. And I have been a writer on the Capitol Corridor when I was working. Occasionally would take it to Oakland for meetings. And that's where I discovered that the route it goes through is very cool for birding from the train. And so that's what I tried to do whenever I wrote it. But before I get into the birds, I'd like to thank Lori Miyasato for her editorial review and her refinements. And she really helped me a lot with this. And thank you, Lori. So let's get started. Okay, maybe I'll get started. There we go. I'm going to talk about the route. Actually, it's the situation, the location of the route within the Central Valley, the Pacific Flyway, which is a migratory highway for birds who are nesting in northern latitudes, the Arctic, Canada, Oregon, Washington. It's a flyway route that they would take during migration to the wintering grounds and then back to the breeding grounds. Sabrina touched on she did a lot actually about wetland habitats, so I won't speak much more to that except to show you some illustrations. And then we'll go into the typical wetland birds that we can see from the train. They're going to be mostly large birds because you're going by at 60 miles an hour, but we'll figure that out as we go as to what you can and cannot see. So here we have a map of the Capitol Corridor, and then we have a map of the Central Valley. And with my fine third grade drawing skills, I've traced out the train route from Sacramento to the Venetia Bridge. And as Lori mentioned, that the train tracks are just above Interstate 80. And that's where we would cross the bypass. But anyway, this is just to give you like some context as to the location of the tracks and the birding area. So the Pacific Flyway, it's one of 4 flyways in North America. And the Central Valley Joint Venture had an aerial survey in January of 2020. And in their survey area in the Central Valley, there were, as you can see, a lot of ducks. There's 17 species of ducks that use this area, the Central Valley. So it's very important for birds to stop over. The Central Valley is very important for birds to stop over to refuel and feed, and for those who is their destination. We're going to be talking about birds today whose destination is the Central Valley. Now, certain populations of these same species will continue on to Mexico. And throughout the Central Valley, right up in here, you can see these ants where it's really thick. There are several state and federal wildlife areas to help replace some of the 90% loss of wetlands in California. The historical wetlands, 90% have been lost over the hundreds of years, or 100 years. But anyway, that's very important that we have these refuges. So here's a map of the Yolo Bypass. There's Interstate 80 in the causeway. You know now that the train just goes right over that. And you can see what's here, the Yolo Basin Foundation, Yolo Bypass Wildlife Area, and rice farming. And just to give you an idea of context, that's my rough estimate of the location of the Yolo Basin, Yolo Bypass Wildlife Area within the bypass. Then we move on to Susumu Marsh after Susumu City. Susumu City is about here, and here's the marsh. And it is it is the last, one of the largest remaining natural coastal wetlands in California or North America for that standpoint. We lose wetlands when you drain them for farming and development. And you know, sometimes that can't be helped. But anyway, this is the last of the natural coastal wetlands, the largest one. And there is a depiction of the train. The Capital Corridor comes across this way. And this is where you'll have a lot of little sloughs and some ponding, but mostly sloughs and pickle grass habitat. And that's where we'll see several types of ducks and geese as it goes across. So here are greater white-fronted geese. These geese nest in the Arctic, and they really have a, what's the word, penchant for the Central Valley. And here's a typical wetland with ponding, these little islands here for birds to rest on. And these guys are actually resting. So it's a habitat for migrant birds to spend the winter. Then you have the wetland, as Sabrina mentioned, it's a nursery. And so these are young northern shoveler ducks and a lone little American widgeon right here. All right. See, this is an adult male, and these are young people. He's probably showing them how to the way of the whale, the way of the world. Sorry. As Lori mentioned, the nursery is mammals, birds, insects, very important breeding area. So we're on the train. What birds are we likely to see? With some luck, you might see a Canada goose. I know there might not see them much in the wild, but if we don't see one from the train, you can go to any golf course or park. So these days they're here year round. But it's an interesting bird. If you have one in a local park or a golf course near you and safe to do so, you can watch their behavior. Their family units are very strong. And if you're watching them, if it's a group of different families together, or just one family with their goslings, one of the adults will always be on guard duty. If you'll notice that goose whose neck is straight up like a pole, that is his shift, his or her shift on guard duty. So the best time to see birds is the winter time, because one, you have more species of birds in the area, and two, you have more individual birds. So your chances of seeing birds are greatly increased. One of my favorite birds to see in the wetlands is the American white pelican. Now they nest in large lakes like Pyramid Lake on isolated islands. It's a large white bird, black wingtips, and in breeding season, breeding age adults get this little knob of fibrous material growing on top of the bill. Now with their next molt, changing of feathers, it will fall off. But you only see this in breeding birds. Excuse me. There's a graceful flight. So as the train is coming across the bypass, you might look south over the Yolo Bypass wildlife area, and you might see these white birds, big white birds in the sky, a group of them, maybe in a ball, maybe in a ball that's circling. They're circling in a warm air called a thermal. They get up high, and when they get up high enough, and who knows what that is, they can find their direction they want to go, use the wind, and glide to their next destination. That way, conserving a lot of energy. Or you may see them in a A to Z flight, either in a V formation or in a J formation, just kind of gracefully. And if you were to go out there, because being on a train, you're not going to see everything, but when there's that line, it looks like their birds will go up and down like they're in a wave, and it's really cool. So it's a big bird. It has a wingspan up to 9 feet, which would be 2.9 meters. This bill, it can be up to 13.5 inches or 34.3 centimeters. Males are generally bigger, and the weight up to 20 pounds. Okay, I don't know how many of those birds actually reach 20 pounds or 9 kilograms, but that's a lot of bird. But they're very, very graceful birds, very beautiful to see. Now, this picture gives the importance of, in a wetland restoration, you'll see the ponds, and they will have these little mounds or loafing islands. And you can see the water's not very deep here, maybe 2-3 inches deep. And even birds that are water birds need to get out of the water to dry off for preening or grooming and for resting. But these guys seem to be interested. There's something going on over here to the left of the picture that has their attention. Or maybe they're just looking into the wind in case they need to take off. But this is what a loafing island is used for, and it's a very important feature. Now, one of the things I like about these guys, if you ever get to see it, if you go back to a wetland like the Yolo Basin, or you might see it as it crosses the Susumu Marsh, is they will group together 4, 5, 6 birds, and they will swim to corral fish they're hunting. If you go to the coast and you've seen the brown pelican, you probably see them fish by diving. These guys do not dive. They corral the fish in a circle or up against the bank. And here's a clip that I took at the Great Salt Lake, where these pelicans have corralled huge carp against the side of a waterway. You can see the carp in here. Look at that tail. Those are huge. The King's Tester. Okay. Now that was a great, oh, sorry. that was a big battle, and the pelican did not get the fish. The fish was about as big as his bill. As the train crosses the Yolo Bypass or the Susumu Marsh, you may see tundra swans. They're related to ducks and geese. So there are waterfowl. They're very large and graceful. Very graceful when they fly. And you might have an opportunity to see them. They arrive in the wintering area about November, early December. And they leave California about mid-February. Going back to the pelicans, what we see in our area are non-breeders or breeding adults who have dispersed after the breeding season. And so we can't see them year round because if a bird is at a breeding age, it may or may not, depending on the population that it's from, go back to the breeding area just to hang out. So tundra swans here they're a winter visitor. This bird is about a 16-pound bird, or 7 kilograms, 7.5 kilograms. And the height with that long neck is about 4 feet, 4.8 feet, and 1.47 meters. And wingspan about 5 feet, or 1.52 meters. So it's a big bird, but you can see the difference between it and the white pelican is that it has here no black wingtips, has a long neck where the pelican has a short neck, and this has a short bill where the pelican has a long bill. Very graceful bird. Then we have snow geese. That's Sacramento in the background there. This picture is taken out at the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. And these are snow geese. They nest in the Arctic. Very strong family groups. If you're crossing the train, you might see this white cloud of birds. Something will get them and they'll get up, and it's great to see. They kind of show up here. They reach the valley about October with the peak about mid-November, and they began to depart the Central Valley in February. So now's the time to get out there. I drove to Sacramento a couple of days ago, and I could look out south over in the wildlife area, and I could see one of the fields, one of the flooded rice fields. It was white. There were snow geese. So in case one comes over to check out the train, this is what they look like up close. It's bigger than a mallard, so it's bigger than a football. White bird with black wingtips. Its cousin the swan, bigger bird, but no black wingtips. The other goose we have here in the valley, as mentioned earlier, was the greater white-fronted goose. This is probably the typical view you might see from the train, them in the air. They're dark geese, so they're going to be big, not as big as a swan, but if they're going away from you, you see the white in the tail. Okay, but yeah, this doesn't give you much. Now these birds here, they're again Alaskan Arctic and the Canadian Arctic. They arrive about mid-October. There's a high density of these birds in the Central Valley, and they start departing through February through about March. And very strong family bonds, lifelong mating. That's the thing about the geese. Ducks are a different story about that. But the geese are really strong family people. I've been birding too long, sorry. In case one flies up close to the train, this is what they look like. This is an adult, black splotches on the belly. And in case you're wondering where the white front in the name comes from, it's right here, right there. I know, it's really obvious, isn't it? It's not a very strong field mark. Excuse me. So these are the large waterfowl. Now there's other birds that can be seen, and year-round birds, and we'll start with the great blue heron. The great blue heron is the largest heron in North America, and it's year-round in the Central Valley. And it's pretty much everywhere in North America. Some people think it's a crane, but it's not. The crane's a whole different species. A wetland habitat. This wet is really not quite their preferred habitat. They'll be in upland areas next to a wetland, but you'll see them more down here. They really like cornfields, corn stubble. When they fly, there's a little crook here that is in a fold their head back in an S on the shoulders, where a crane flies with a straight neck. But this right here helps them spring action when they hunt. And this guy's probably stalking. Eyes are such that they can look down with binocular vision. And if they see something, they will slowly bring their head back. It's like, cocking it, setting the spring so that they can do a rapid stab. Now this bird here is about a 5-pound bird, average. We're talking average numbers and up to numbers. 5 pounds or 2.3 kilograms, has a wingspan of 6 feet or 1.8 meters, and a height of 5 feet and 1.5 meters. It's a big bird, weighs 5 pounds. Birds have air chambers in their bones to help them stay light for flight. So that's why you'll see a bird and it looks big and it might weigh 2 pounds. A wild bird, it might be that. The cousin to the great blue heron is the great egret. Now here's in flight, that neck curl back. You'll see, obviously you're going to notice this bird because it is large and it's white. Black legs, yellow bill, and you will see them out in areas just like this or alongside a waterway like the heron was, alongside a slough or something, stalking or waiting for fish. They will eat fish, mammals. I've seen them out in an alfalfa field with gophers. Year-round, like I mentioned, it's an average height's about 3.3 feet or 1 meter. Wingspan, 4.7 feet or 1.4 meters. And weight, ready, 2 pounds or 0.9 kilograms. But you see these, you might see them spread out. They don't mind hunting with others, but they do like their space. There's another white egret, the snowy egret. This time of year, I've seen groups of 12 together, especially at roosting. But you will see them again in shallow water alongside shallow marsh water or alongside of a waterway. All right, it's a small bird. Lori found this picture. This is a great egret, big bird, but a yellow bill. And the snowy egret, a black bill. If you're not a birder and you see them by themselves, you get a pass on trying to determine the size. But if you see a yellow bill, a long neck and yellow bill, a great egret, a black bill on a white bird standing like this, a snowy egret. Year-round, so you're and most of these year-round birds, there will be migrants from northern areas that have a freeze. And so they will be down in the valley or on our coast. Another wading bird that you can see, especially when you go across the bypass, is the white-faced ibis. Now this picture here, I want to show you what you will most likely see from the train. A flock of ibis in flight, but their posture. Long, relatively long neck for the size of the bird, but this decurved bill, and then the legs held straight out. The wading birds have long legs, so you will see the wading birds flying with their legs straight out. But this might be the view you will see from the train. And as we go through the Susumu Marsh, where you're really close to the water, you might see one up close. This is a breeding white-faced ibis. this white feathers here come on during the breeding season. And this little stand of cattails, bunch of birds trying to nest in there. It's really crowded, but this is what they look like up close. This is what you're likely to see on interstate, going across the bypass. And cross your fingers, you might see this up close in the Susumu Marsh. So ducks, let's talk about ducks. I'm going to talk about dabbling ducks. Dabbling ducks, and dabbling refers to feeding behavior. So you have dabbling ducks and you have diving ducks. I'm going to talk about dabbling ducks because there are the predominant type of duck in these marshes, because the water is in most cases, most instances, no deeper than 2 feet. Be kind of hard for a diver, but in some areas there are some deeper waters where you will see some diving ducks, especially the smaller ones. But I'm only going to talk about the dabbling ducks today. And but what is dabbling? Diving's obvious, right? To me, it is diving where you go underwater completely submerged like a submarine. But what is dabbling? You've probably seen this. It's where they tip over. These are northern pintails with this long tail, both males. And this is how they would reach submerged vegetation like swamp timothy. Swamp timothy is one of the plants planted out there at the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. They will do this to get to that vegetation. So the pintails, they really like the Central Valley, and they're not year-round. Although last summer I did see some in July, but basically they'll show up here. Oh boy, I didn't write that down. Let's just pick a number. Late September, they should be gone by March. Now, mallards. Most people are familiar with the mallards from the parks, from zoos. It is a dabbling duck, the most abundant duck in North America. And probably something you didn't know is that the domestic white duck was bred from the mallard. Yes, year-round, but the winter populations are augmented by northern birds who breed in areas where they have a freeze. So the migrants start showing up about September, and they leave around April. This is the female. This is the male. In ducks, the males are the dressy ones. The females, they do the heavy lifting. This plumage is for camouflage. They're ground nesters. They nest in grasses. So this helps. So all the females of the dabbling ducks will have similar plumage to this. And so this is going to be the main example. The rest of the birds are going to be adults. Once the female has eggs, the male says, "See ya." So she does all the heavy lifting, the rearing, and so on and so forth. The other dabbling duck that's very popular in the valley is the northern shoveler. This beak, this bill/beak, interchangeable for me. It's designed for straining. They will take a mouthful of water and then squeeze the water out, and they will trap invertebrates, seeds, plant pots, plant remains, and that sort of thing. That's how they would swim. You might see them sometimes swimming with their head underwater, or they're dabbling. Most of the migrants in California are from Alberta, Washington, British Columbia, but they will. Oh, yes. The migrants start showing up about mid-August, and they'll start leaving about April. When I say these ducks may be year-round, because there may be small breeding populations, but it's if you see them, that's fantastic. Foraging behavior, I mentioned that they will swim with their head on the water and for stuff in a circle, and they're paddling real fast, bringing stuff up to the surface. Must be something good there. So we just had 2 ducks, green heads, males with green heads. So you're in the train and you're looking out. Your colors may not be all that great, but you see a dark head, a dark breast, and a light flanks or side. Most likely it's a mallard. And we're not going to talk about the diving ducks, but yeah, it's most chances a mallard. But if you see a dark head, a white breast, and a dark side, and it's with a little red in it, a male shoveler. Okay, dark head, white breast, dark side. Dark head, dark breast, light side. Okay, that won't be on the test. It's not a graded exercise. Now here's the northern pintail. It's a beautiful bird. I think it's a graceful flyer. You look out and you might see them flying on the Susumu Marsh or across the bypass. Very, very cool bird with their chocolate head and their racing pinstripe here. So at the distance from the train, dark head, white breast, and a medium dark flanks. Okay, and females don't have a long tail like this. This is 2 feathers here. So it's a cool bird to see, and hopefully as you're crossing the Susumu Marsh, when you have the ponds and the waterways close to the tracks, you'll see these guys. They can handle the brackish water of the Susumu Marsh. So they'll start showing up about mid-September. And they'll start leaving about the first week of March. And Alaska, for any bird that's leaving California, Alaska is most likely their destination. All right, this is a different type of coloration of a male duck. This is a gadwall. It's even so strange, its genus name is not even the same as the others. But I think it's a very cool bird. Reminds me of a wool suit that I had to wear in July. And you can't see that, but when you look at a mallard, it had blue in the wing. This bird has white in the wing. So if you see 2 birds that look like 2 females, they're probably gadwalls. They're pretty much year round, with the bigger numbers coming from the migrants. And so they arrive about late October, early November in the Central Valley, and they'll start departing about February. But here where I live in Davis, we can see gadwalls during the summer, during the breeding season. Okay, you're gonna see from the train, I've had people say, what is that white duck, black duck with the white bill? Well, that bird is an American coot. It's not a duck. It's year-round in the valley, and we do get migrants, so you'll see lots of them during the fall and winter. And the coots that breed in the Great Basin, they mostly winter here in California. They only breed in fresh water, but you can see them in the Susumu Marsh during the winter. They can tolerate salt water for short periods of time, but not long enough for breeding. And they can move around, they can be transient. But coot, it's in the water, it swims, it dives, it dabbles. So how does it get around if it's not a duck? What kind of feet? How about that? They're large feet. They have lobes on here on the toes. And this, like a web foot, it helps them support them on muck. And I've even seen them walk on decaying vegetation that's floating in the water. Think about birds that dive. Their feet are set way back in the body. They need a runway. If you watch the mallards would just jump up and fly. Diving ducks need a runway. So you'll see Goose running on the water, flapping and like they're running on the water to get airborne. Only to go about 50 yards and get down again. And I can hear them saying now, whoa, my personal best. I got 651 yards. Another bird that's not a duck that you'll see is a red-winged blackbird. This is in spring, males breeding, singing. But in the winter, you have breeding colonies, you have migrants, and you get large winter flocks, winter feeding flocks, winter roosting flock, large flocks of birds. This right here is like, an eighth of a, I've seen flocks where this would be like an eighth. This is predominantly red-winged blackbirds, but right here, this white and right here, those are yellow-headed blackbirds. So these big, large flocks of blackbirds, you see right here, I can't see if I see red on that, but that's probably a red wing. What you get is mixed flocks, red-winged blackbirds, brewer's blackbirds, yellow-headed blackbirds, and tricolored blackbirds, starlings, these large flocks over the wetlands. And especially if you're taking the evening train to Sacramento, dusk, you might see large flocks just diving into the Yolo Bypass wildlife area to roost in the cattails and tules. And you might see foraging flocks in the Susumu Marsh, especially as you're crossing some of the ranch lands and the pastures. You might see them following the cows. So these are pretty cool birds. So you got your interest and you want to know what next time I ride the train, I want to know what I'm seeing. I find these fold-out guides, well, my wife finds these fold-out guides to be very useful. This is hers. I'm a field guide, a book. But this is great for quick reference. And this one right here, this Waterfowl of North America, that will help you either inland or on the coast, because it does have some of this saltwater ducks. And this isn't a description. This is the name of the company, Folding Guides. And then this company is Quick Reference Publishing. You can find these books there. Unfortunately, you'll find them in bookstores or especially visitor centers at places if you want to wait till they open up again. Oh, I was going to change this because it's busy. All you need to do is remember, Google all about birds if you want to know more about the birds I talked about today. All About Birds is a website by the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology. And you put in the name of the bird and it gives you interesting information about that bird. It can help you distinguish it from a similar looking bird. Like we have the red-winged blackbird, you can compare it to the tricolored blackbird. And it also has a feature where if you don't know how to start, you can describe the bird and it will give you some clues. So that could be helpful if you want to get more information. So that's all I have for you today in the time allotted. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a little bit about wetland birds and about habitat, and especially about what you can see from the train. I'm just like a kid when I was riding the train and I'm going through those areas. Really enjoy that. So hopefully there's some questions that I can answer, or at least get back to you with the answers on it. And thank you so much for joining us today. But I want to leave you with this in case you want to do more or you want to learn more, you want to see how you can help. preserve conservation, help conserve wetlands. And Sabrina mentioned some of that herself. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. I don't want anyone to leave just yet. We're not over. We definitely have some questions, actually a lot of questions.
Okay.
And we even had some questions come in before the presentation, people emailed. So I'll try to go through those. Sabrina also did a really great job answering some of the questions during the presentation. So I'll probably leave, though, if there's anything that we want to reiterate there, I can bring that up at the end, but I'll try to get to the ones that Sabrina was not able to answer and some of the ones that came before. But thank you so much. That was really fantastic. And I have to say, the images are absolutely beautiful. So I'm like already have this idea that, you know, we need to do some kind of bird photography class. That'll be our next Zoom one. Or maybe do that on the train sometime. So that was good. And one of the things that amazed me actually about this whole presentation was I was just completely blown away that was the blue heron that is 5 feet tall and weighs 5 pounds. I mean, that's just crazy. I'm just a little over 5 feet myself and weigh a lot more than 5 pounds. So just fascinating. Okay. So I want to go over a few of the questions. First of all, someone in the beginning asked about the background that I have, and that was taken by a photographer friend of mine from the train. And we actually do have virtual backgrounds that are on our website. And I actually put the link in the chat. I'm going to do that again, though, right here. So if you want to check that out, and there's other backgrounds as well too. Do you, Ken or Sabrina, and Sabrina, if you want to put your camera on, you can too, but do you have any virtual backgrounds or anything like that? If you do, feel free to just share them here.
From our website, yolobasin.org, we have some great pictures on there that have, if you see it has photo credit, then you can just use it as a background at home. That's fine, as long as you have the credit for that photographer. That as long, and you, of course, please don't use it for any other form, but for personal background, that's fine.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, so let me get to some questions because I know we're getting close to noon here. I mean, I'm okay going a few minutes over if others are too, but let me get started. So we had a question about, and I'm not sure, this is probably for Ken, it had to do with rice. So we're told not to feed wildlife. So regarding rice and the migratory birds, is the rice left in the fields after the harvest healthy for the birds? And what exactly are the birds eating in the fields? Little salmon, fish, bugs?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. Audubon, California works very closely with the California Rice Commission in their Working Lands Division to create habitat and have farming that is still profitable farming, but also habitat good for the birds. What happens there? There are tenant rice farmers within the Yolo Bypass wildlife area. And there are always some fields that are left fallow. And okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Birds will use the rice field, the egrets, because there's going to be fish. There's going to be mosquito fish. Mosquito abatement, Sacramento mosquito abatement, vector control is very active. So there's going to be mosquito fish. There's going to be fish that come in with the water. So birds are using that while the rice is growing. And when the rice is harvested, there is rice that is still there. So instead of burning stubble, rice farmers these days flood the field to rot the stubble. So that creates a habitat so birds can eat the unharvested rice, and it is good for them. It's very important for them. And so, yes, rice is good for them, and it is in the fields for them. So in the rice fields that are there, that's what they eat. in a wetland, a natural wetland or restored wetland, there's invertebrates, mollusks, snails, worms, mosquito fish, other things that they will eat, snakes, frogs, ducks and stuff. They will take, if while they're eating a swamp timothy, they eat a snail, so be it. But they're vegetation. So I hope that is a long answer to a short question.
Thank you. Okay, someone asked, I'm not sure if this got answered yet because it was at the end, how much do dapplers typically weigh? And is there a difference between what they weigh when they arrive and when they leave?
If you see a bird, maybe say 2 pounds. 2 pounds, 3 pounds is a big duck. Birds that are from the north will have a layer of fat. So they're going to be a little heavier. And if this is their destination, they will probably slim down a little bit. They won't need as much fat. If they're heading to Mexico, they will eat again, put on more fat and go. So those birds can leave here at, say, 4 pounds. But the birds that are here, I would say 2 to 3 pounds.
Okay, lightweights. Let's see, here's a question that came in. When you see a bunch of great egrets together in a field, what are they doing?
They are eating. You will see a flooded alfalfa field. Everybody that lives there is going to high ground. So you will see a lot of egrets there, and they're looking for the rodents. And basically that's what you have is if they're in a field, there's something to eat there. And some sort of invertebrate or mammals.
Okay.
And they're probably not right next to each other. They're probably spread out.
Okay. Let's see, someone asked, what is a good resource for helping us to tell the difference between all the hawks we see out there?
Well, a free resource would be All About Birds. And I do not have a website, a raptor website to help. There's a Facebook group on raptors. Then there's a book by Crosley on raptors. I think it's a hardcover and it's photographs, but it shows different birds at different distances.
What was that called again?
It's by an author named Crosley. I think Cross with the L-E-Y at the end. I don't know his first name. And I don't know the exact title of the book. It's Raptors.
Okay.
It's on the bookshelf, but I don't memorize the title.
Okay. Well, people can check that out.
Yeah.
Putting that in
All
the
About
answers.
Birds. If you get a hawk, then you can compare that hawk to others.
Okay. Awesome. Let's see. Some of these were answered. I actually had a question. Do you recommend?
Can I chime in real quickly about
Yeah.
birds? So I have here, it's probably a little hard to see, but it's the Laws Pocket Guide to the Birds of the Sacramento Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And it has hawk
Okay.
ID on it, as well as wetland birds, wading birds, the whole
nice.
gamut.
Great.
Okay. We might
I'm
have
so
to put that.
embarrassed. I have that. I didn't know.
No worries, I ran to the bookshelf.
We might have to put that on our train. Somebody asked, and I know it's noon. Let me ask our panelists, we've had some people drop off, but not a lot. Are you okay staying for a couple of minutes to just go through a few questions? Is that okay? Sabrina,
Yeah.
good with you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, fun.
I'll try to have shorter answers.
So somebody asked about cranes, that you didn't
Huh?
mention cranes. Do they come here?
No. You might see flyovers. The best crane habitat in the area is down by Lodi. And it's more upland, or it's cornfields, pastures. They will roost in wetlands, but they feed more in grasslands or crop fields.
Okay. Different habitat then, different
Yes.
ecosystem.
Yes, I think there's one recorded crane on the ground at the Yolo Basin Bypass, Yolo
Oh,
Bypass Wildlife Area over the
we'll have
years.
to go look for him.
One on the ground.
Let's go find that one.
That's why I did not use cranes.
Someone asked, how much in weight does a greater egret need to eat?
I do not know. I do not know. Whatever it is, it's going to be more in the spring. They feed through regurgitation. That's a good question. What do they need to maintain their health?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't have that. I'll
That's
find out
okay.
and send it to you.
Yeah, we can send that out, just a reminder to everyone that we did record this, so we'll send out a link to that. And there is also a way to save the chat. So some of the answer, like if you want to save that with some of the links that we put in there, you can do that. I think there's like three, those three dots, and you can go there and you can save the chat. I don't know a lot about that. I just know I know you can do it. So wanted to mention that. Someone asked if there are bike paths through the wetlands. Now, I've been on that bike path that you can take actually from our Susumu station, the one in downtown Susumu. You can pick up this bike path and then drive through, I think it's called the Grizzly area. Grizzly. Anyway, yeah, you can fill me in on that. But I've been on that bike path and it's pretty. So I don't know if you know an answer to that.
Sabrina might chip in, but
Yeah.
at the Yolo Basin Wildlife Area, bikes are not allowed in the southern part, but bikes are allowed in north of Interstate 80.
We put together a few years ago a blog post about some bike trails like that you could access from our train, but not necessarily through the marsh. So, but I have been on that the one in the Grizzly area, right off of Susumu, and you literally pick the path up right from the train station, and then obviously you're kind of driving on the road for a little bit, but then you go in. It's very pretty. It's really beautiful, actually.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend that. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Oh, someone asked if you have an Instagram account, Ken. Well, now you do.
I was just talking. I've been talking with my smart daughter. Well, they're both smart, in case they're watching. About a site for my photographs, but no, I do not have one for that.
Oh, Ken, we're gonna get you started.
Hey, and Karen, I wanted to remind everybody who about the bike question that we do have the ability to bring bikes on the train. So if you're interested in traveling to the Susumu station and picking up that trail, you can do that. Yeah,
good point. You know what? I actually, it's funny, when I did that particular ride that I was just telling you about, I did it with my husband and I wrote up a little blog post on it for the Capitol Corridor site. So I'll try to track that down and send a link when we send out the replay. So we'll have a lot of different resources maybe that we can provide to you when we get something out next week-ish. So just wanted to let you know that. I have one, I don't see any other questions. Lots of people who really enjoyed this. So again, just want to reiterate, thank you so much. I think one of the important messages here was the importance of protecting the wetland. And I hope that everyone really goes away with that, because it's just, I don't think people realize when you're on the train and you're looking at the beautiful scenery, just how vital and how important that area is. It's not just a marsh, right? It's really important to our environment and to our ecosystem. So I think having educational opportunities like this is just really important. So I hope we can do more of this. I hope we can do, more of this on the train. I did want to ask, because I'm so curious, do you have any binoculars that you recommend? Like if people wanted to bring binoculars on the train and try to see the birds from the window, or a resource for binoculars?
Yes, there are Audubon and Audubon website, National Audubon has a comparison of binoculars based on price. For each price range, but I would recommend on the train especially, you know, for if you're commuting. A small pair, probably no bigger than 8 by 32 or 8 by, yeah, no bigger than 8 by 32, and a roof prism, ROOF prism. In other words, it's a straight line. They're a lot lighter. And you can, you know, Nikon has a pair, I forget the name of them, but they're like under 150 bucks and stuff like that. So there are some, you know, they range from 80 to 150, but I think anything under 100, if you can afford it, go higher, just for the glass. But
Okay.
yeah, but a small pair like that. There are pocket pairs, but they're kind of hard to see because they're very narrow field of view.
Okay. Well, great. That's really helpful. The holidays are coming up, so maybe that would be a nice gift, actually. This was a lot of fun. And again, hopefully in the not too distant future, we can do something on the train as well. So thank you again to the Yolo Basin Foundation, to Ken Ely and Sabrina Britt. And so thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks to everyone who participated in this event. And we will hopefully see you on the train soon. Bye.